to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mess Podcast. And sometimes I don't even feel like I should even be introducing you. I feel like we should just open the show with us just talking
See if
because,
they can figure out who I am, right? Don't even put my name as the guest and let's just talk. See.
You're regular. Actually, I was talking last night to when I was doing the So You Like Horror podcast, and after we finished, I was talking about upcoming guests to the show and previous guests, like recent guests I recorded with, and my buddy goes, "Oh, yeah, she's on the show all the time. What's her name? Um, she's on quite a bit, isn't she?" I was like, "Yeah, she's had a good run. Like right now, it's kind of spaced out, but at one point, it was almost a regular occurrence. You may as well be my co-host at that point." So
I'm not making any commitments, but I'm here for you.
hey, look, you've been there every time I've needed someone in there. You've come in, and there have been times where I'm sitting there like, "Oh man, I'm stumped for a guest." And I get a message from you like, "Hey, so you want to record soon?" Perfect, because I feel weird about asking people. And I ask tons of people, but there are times where I'm just like, I just recorded with them, or I know they've got a lot on their plate, so I'm gonna wait until it dies down. But you'll catch
I'm
me
always
right
here
at that
to
moment.
talk.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. How have you been?
Good, man. What was the last episode we did? Oh, about blue belts and quitting and all that stuff, right?
Yep, and that one's actually still doing very well. Every time I look up, I'm like, "Oh, okay. All right, here we go." So
that's awesome. It's so funny too that you say that, because after doing that episode, my husband's a brown belt and we have our own studio. So like what's funny now is sometimes when that sounded like I was trying to have a little commercial, didn't it? Brown belt studio, we'll plug in, just playing.
the secret ad, it works.
Little ad space. We still didn't even officially introduce me, so I kind of love that we're still going with this. I like it.
They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. So after we did, I don't need any introduction. Thank you very much. After we did that episode, now we talk about it a lot, even in class sometimes. So we'll be talking about something and a topic will come up, and my husband will, a lot of times this is part of why people, maybe end up leaving at this level. Or it's just almost like sparked this bigger conversation, especially with some of our students too, as they come to us with stuff or, life happening and jobs and girlfriends and everything. So what's funny is it sort of just kind of created this more open dialogue with a lot of our students and friends and stuff about hey, if life changes, that doesn't mean you have to just quit doing jujitsu. And that was one of the things that I was kind of thinking about us talking about too, because there's been so much this past year. If I was just thinking back to one of the very first episodes that we did, and I was cleaning up at tournaments and I'm going to compete all the time and be top whatever IBJJF, and now the evolution of my jujitsu journey. I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with what we had talked about before about why blue belts quit. I think it's almost not even that it's necessarily blue belts. It's that when you started this sport, and my husband says this a lot, when you start the sport, are you prepared for if life does happen, making changes? Or are martial arts schools, jujitsu schools, studios and dojos, are they prepared for when their students encounter, life issues, and making sure that they have a safe space to still feel like they can come train, or making them feel like, well, if you can't come 5 days a week, 2 times a day, and compete once a month, every month, then you might as well quit jujitsu. I think that kind of plays a big hand in it too. So I feel like we can't just put it all off on blue belts in general.
I think that I've had some teammates who purple belt, brown belts, even, and definitely white belts who they're there, they're getting the reps in, and then just life takes a different turn. You know, whether it be they participate in another sport, or maybe just the work life balance gets a little trickier for them. And that's just not exclusive to blue belts. It's not like once you get your blue belt, you get a promotion at work and they're like, hey, so you train less now, or you get your blue belt and it's like, oh no, we're having another kid. It's just life happens. And I know for myself, when I started, I was in that same pocket where I was like, I was only training 1 day per week, but I was committed. I loved it. And once I was able to get more time on the mats, and my job changed, I was able to go in every day just about. And at that point, that's where I was in that mindset of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm doing this, nothing can stop me. And then honestly, I was at a good point, and COVID hit, and it wasn't that COVID stopped me, it was me during COVID that stopped me, because there was that comfort, well, we can't train. And I was training with one teammate. He and I would go over to the gym. We isolate ourselves off very well. He dislikes society just as much as I do, so we never went out, but we'd go out to train together. And that was kind of the only thing keeping me really going. But then once it came back time to opening the doors, schedules changed at the gym, life at home changed slightly. Then it became this thing of like, well, would this have happened? Would these changes have taken place if COVID hadn't taken place? Because it's easy for me to say, oh, well, COVID did this to me. And it's like, well, no, no. I mean, there were just other changes that took place, and
Yeah.
that disrupted. And that's just life. That's not exclusive to, my rank as a blue belt. That's just, it's life.
Exactly. And I think too that that's great how you said that it's not just about being a blue belt. I feel like part of why it feels like it's the blue belts that quit is you're still fairly new in jujitsu, right? So if you are fairly new at this sport or this activity or this thing, and then life changes, it's a little just, oh, okay, well, mindset shift, whatever. So I think that even if there's a purple belt that had just an insane amount of life things that happened, they might quit as well too. It just happens that, we feel like, oh my God, everyone gets to blue belt, and then they quit. They don't, because we have people that are purple belts, brown belts, and black belts. So
Yeah. Well, I wonder too, because when I got my blue belt, I remember I went on our other podcast, Nerd Rage Radio, and I just got my blue belt. And I tend to do an episode. I always pop up in February, Black History Month over there.
yeah.
Um, so it's kind of a running joke over there. It's like, February's here, Dante will be on. It's like, usually because my birthday is in February, so I
Not
have
because
a
of any
bunch
other
of
reason.
time off. But it's in February, Black History Month. But when I got promoted, I did an episode of Nerd Rage maybe the next week or the week following, but it was very soon afterward. And they saw, actually, I think they had mentioned it on the show before I came on, because I posted on Facebook. So, they mentioned it. And one of the hosts at the time, he was like, Dante got his blue belt, now he's like, this is jiu-jitsu. Like he's like legitimate in this now. He's in it.
Yeah.
And I think maybe for some people, as I think back to, them saying that, and then thinking for some, maybe it's like, okay, I got my blue belt. I've accomplished something. I've ranked up. So I have the safety of saying, okay, I can leave saying that I've accomplished something in jiu-jitsu. That's not to say that, I feel like as a blue belt, we're, like you said, we're still fairly new. We're still learning. So on one side of it, you could say, well, yeah, you accomplished ranking up, but at the same time, you really haven't accomplished anything. So it's this weird gray area where you're kind of in between the two, where you can say, yes, again, I've ranked up. I've done enough to know I might be able to, protect myself on the streets, but I still don't know the jiu-jitsu, like I'm in the beginning stages of knowing jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
So I think when, people who quit at blue, there is a safety net of saying, well, I've done something. So I've done enough.
Yeah, and you know what I think too in our community, who cares if someone wanted to get a blue belt and then they quit? That's great. I mean, we do all know that it's this big joke, right? That we make because obviously there are blue belts that stay because we have purple belts and we have brown belts and we have black belts. So everyone's not quitting, obviously. But I do think, the bigger thing too that, we had talked about, which has been nice to have more conversations about it, is the real question about the dojos. And honestly, I don't know what everyone calls it. Some people say dojo, some people say studio, some people say whatever. So, are they helping their students or are they just putting that pressure, right? So if you're at this school that puts all this heavy pressure on competing and all this stuff, okay, well, so maybe it's not their fault that they quit. Maybe they were in an environment where they felt like they really didn't have an option because of their life. So what if we had more people that were more accepting in saying, oh, you're going back to school right now? Oh, you're also a mom? Oh, and you're, back in the workforce now. You know what? That's okay. Train when you can. Jujitsu is not going anywhere, which is funny because, we always hear a lot of times people say, like, oh, jujitsu is always going to be there for you. It's never going to go anywhere. Well, then why do we put all this pressure to make people feel like if they don't come 5 times a week or 3 times a week, that they're somehow not as good at jujitsu, right? Or shouldn't be showing up anyway? I think that it has a lot to do with the culture that you're in. And try, I feel like there is a little bit of a shift, in people, or at least in the female community, the followers that I have and I communicate with, where they'll go somewhere and they'll say, I don't really like this. I'm going to try this. And they find the culture that fits them, instead of just feeling like I only have one opportunity for jujitsu. And even if they're a bunch of jerks, this is my only option.
Well, I feel like also with, like you said, it's the environment, when, people have things that are going on, at least from my experience, I've seen, our coaches, I've seen other coaches, they're supportive, but it's almost kind of like, depending on that relationship, that connection, there's like a friendship where it's like, you're there less. So then, you're always welcome back. But it's like when you come back in, is there the pressure from yourself or from the team that, you
Oh,
don't
look who
feel
decided to
like,
show up, or oh.
yeah, yeah, so I initially started training in Arnold, Maryland. We relocated, the gym moved, they got a new space about 3 miles up the road in Severna Park. And the area was a little tighter, I felt like. Now, once our gym, we expanded and, we joined Crazy 88, I started training at the Elkridge location because Crazy 88 has 3 locations. There's Elkridge, Owens Mills, and Severna Park now. I started training over at Elkridge. Number one, the time is convenient. I can do it on Wednesday afternoon. That's really the only time I have to train. And the evenings is tough because my wife works evenings. So trying to get out of there in time for her to get off to work, it's difficult. Um, so I've been training at Elkridge, and a few of the Severna Park guys have come over on a Wednesday morning now, and they're like, "Oh wow, you're like, do you come here often? Like, are you here like every Wednesday?" I was like, "Yeah, this is primary for me right now. Is Wednesday morning." They're like, "Oh, okay, it's good to see that you're still training," and hearing that's very encouraging. Uh, you know, from your other teammates that you haven't seen in probably a year. But then there's kind of like some jabs, like jokingly, like from the others, like, "Oh, we're wondering what happened to you. We thought you went off and joined the circus or something, something goofy." And it's like, no, dude, I've been here for the last year or so, training on Wednesday mornings, and I wonder if some of that too is a matter of your own feel. Like for me, I then started kind of having this feeling of like, I don't know. I just felt a little indifferent with some of like the questions and jokes, but I think also a part of that for me is I don't really communicate with a lot of people, even though like on Instagram, I have all these followers and I do communicate through Instagram. If you message me, I do respond, things like that. I don't necessarily go out seeking like conversation. So when it comes to my teammates, if they're not on Instagram or they don't use Instagram that much, we don't really talk about anything. We don't even like see each other. They don't like, they know, oh, he's still doing Instagram thing, but is he still training? So I sometimes think that pressure comes from ourselves, or from ourselves, when
Oh,
we're like,
definitely.
hey, going back, you may be fully welcomed with no questions asked, but on your own side, it's like you might feel, because I've felt that way, as I see those old teammates are coming back, and it's like, what are they thinking?
I think some of that too is just the nature of our sport, right? Like the pressure that we put on ourselves. We can't sit here and blame every single one of our teammates for how we let our feelings affect us, right? So, one of the big things for me we had talked about before was, I was doing a lot of competing and I had all these goals. I think it would be funny to go back and listen to like one of our first episodes and then like just to see that evolution of like, oh, it doesn't have to all be about winning, or it doesn't have to only be worth it if I can only train, 5 days a week. It's still something that you can do long term. Now, granted, that's also depending on your commitment to the sport and if you really do love it, right? Let's be honest. Jiu-jitsu is not something that I think is for the mass community to just kind of, oh, I mean, it's okay, I'll show up. Like you really have to enjoy, right? Like someone dripping their sweat in your eyeball, right? Like you really have to be okay with someone smashing you, or you have to be okay with some bumps and bruises and like, so there is that component to it. But you're totally right. A lot of it is our own pressure that we put on ourselves. When I got my blue belt, I can't talk. When I got my blue belt, I put a lot of pressure on myself for that first tournament because I honestly did not want to go do a blue belt tournament because I had been winning at white belt. And now I'm a brand new baby blue belt. I'm not stupid. I don't, I know that it's going to be harder. It's a different ball game. It's a different everything. And, my husband and one of my other coaches, they were like, you can't only do tournaments that you think you're going to win. That's silly. Like you're not going to get better if you only do the things you're going to succeed at. So I think that you just have to have that mind shift.
Like I had a teammate that actually he said that for himself. He had won at white belt, and when he got promoted to blue belt, he was doing well at blue belt in the gym, training hard and everything. I think I overheard someone ask him if he was going to compete at blue belt, and he said no. Like he didn't feel comfortable. You know, he didn't necessarily say scared, but he was kind of alluding to that. And the thing is, it's like on one note with that, in my mind, I was like, I completely respect that. I love the fact that he and that I kind of took a page from that too, because I started thinking about it because I didn't really have a lot of interest in competing at blue belt. I don't know if it's so much about being scared as much as it was a matter of in my own mind. It's like I have this whole people pleasing thing. And it's like if I'm messing up and my coaches are like trying to coach me and I'm still messing up, I then again put this pressure on myself of I'm not coachable. So I was like, in my own head, I was like, what, I'm going to continue to train for sure. I don't know that, is it that important for me to compete? For the learning aspect, yes. For the personal, like I want to compete and win. Everybody likes to win. But
yeah, I think that's where it definitely has to do with your goals. And I think that there's not a lot of gyms, I feel like, that actually talk to their students about their individual goals And I think that's where we could do better as a community. I'm not trying to put everything off on the coaches, like, hey, they're coaching, people come in, you're a member, whatever. But I've talked to quite a few other people. Now, I have to also remind myself, I'm looking at it from a lens of, well, I'm married to my coach and we are like in jujitsu for the long haul. We both like sit and watch videos, we dissect things. He'll, walk me through stuff. So like, I obviously have this really great support system, right? But I've talked to so many other people in the jiu-jitsu community that they'll ask me questions or, well, what about this or what about that? And, but I don't know about when I get rank. But if I also want to do this tournament, I'm like, well, don't you talk to your coach about like where you're at and what your goals are? And do you guys discuss like if competing is even something you want to do or how you should go about it? And I just feel like there's not enough conversations, with people that are in the jiu-jitsu community trying to figure it out, but not like communicating with their coaches.
Sure. That's something that I really enjoyed with my when I trained with Ivy League before it merged with 88. We all, after class, we sit around with the coach, we talk, and whether it be jiu-jitsu or just life period, and even now at 88 we do. After our Wednesday morning class, we all kind of circle up, and coach kind of goes over just some philosophy and wisdom at the end of class for us, and it's encouraging. And
we call it jujitsu theory at our school. I always joke my husband will be at the end and he'll start talking about stuff, and I'm like, all right, here we go, jujitsu theory lesson, lay it on me.
Well, I'm just happy that we sit down and we circle up instead of like if we're all lined up and coach is talking, I'm like exhausted after getting my ass kicked the entire time. My knees are hurting. I'm like, I think there's one class a few months back. I got ragdolled the entire time by everyone. And I remember just standing there at the end. I'm like wavering back and forth. And this was like on the Wednesday mornings, it's like not a lot of, upper belt. So like, I think I might've been one of two, like I might've been the only blue belt and there might've been a purple belt there. And then there's all white belts and phase belts. And I'm like standing there like wavering. I'm like, oh no, hurry. Cause if I fall over, I'm not coming back. like it's going to be a couple months before I show my face again. But having an opportunity to sit after class and listen to coach, and then he'll hang out afterwards as well, after that even. And if you have any questions, he answers the questions. If you want to talk, just he's very open. And I don't know how other gyms do it. I like to think that other gyms, the coaches are very available, but it's just hard to say, again, from my stance. I know where I am. Again, I have that luxury. And then some people don't even have, they'll have it, but they don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, they show up and then they leave. And again, that's to me, part of your journey you have to figure out. Like jujitsu, I don't feel like jujitsu is the sport where you just like show up and leave. Now it can be, I should correct myself. It can be if you're fine with that. If you just like happen to enjoy the type of workout you get when you do jujitsu, fine. But I feel like if you want long-term success, like with anything, you have to learn and grow, evolve. You have to start talking about your goals and stuff, So it was so funny. When we were talking about when I was going to get my blue belt, we at our school, we don't sit and have conversations like, okay, what day am I going to get it? And I'm ready. Like, we don't have those conversations. Obviously it's up to your coaches, black belt, like, there's a whole process, but we do start having the conversation a couple of months out based on your goals. Okay. Are you a person that wants to compete? Great. If you're close to getting your blue belt, do you have goals at white belt that you want to achieve first? Because if so, then maybe we wait a little bit. Or do you not care about competing? And just based off your skill and technique, then sure, you're a blue belt. I think those are the conversations that are really important to have. One of the things I remember talking to Professor Solis about my transition from white to blue, and I was a little nervous, but I had been doing so good. I was top 25 IBJJF white belt, and I thought I was all little badass. Oh, I'm top 25, and he was like, "So you're the best white belt." he brought me down to earth real quick. He was like, "Cool, so you're the best at the beginner level." But being able to kind of have those real conversations, I think, are important. So then now in my jujitsu journey, I don't know why I can't say jujitsu tonight, or today, probably because I was out way too late at Fight to Win, I'm guessing, which we'll talk about because that was some good jujitsu last night. And then talking about where I'm at as a blue belt, like I definitely want to compete more, but I'm also back in school now. I'm pursuing a degree, I'm working, and I get this question a lot because especially, so many of my followers did start following me at the beginning of my journey when I was competing a lot. So then now I'm not competing as much. So I obviously get the question consistently, when are you going to compete again? Well, I had to just kind of sit back and think about it. I'm sure I could try to show up and do some tournaments. And it's not about, oh, I'm not doing it because I can't win. I can't realistically put the amount of time in to do it in a safe way, in my opinion. And when I say safe, I mean, I'm staying up late studying. We're getting up early to take the kid to school. It's not realistic for me to think that I can put the time and effort just to go in and at least be able to give what needs to be given, in a tournament. But I think that again, when we're talking about the bigger picture and mindset and all of that, I mean, that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. I very easily could have said, okay, well, that was really fun at white belt. I got my blue belt. Great. I think I'm just going to quit because I'm doing school and I'm a mom and all these other things. But instead, you know what? I'm just happy to train when I can, and that's cool. I will get back to the competition mat. I want to do more, but right now it's just not realistic, and that's totally fine.
And that's the thing too. Again, for you, it's not available right now for you. And I think sometimes when it comes to our own jiu-jitsu journeys as well, and outside commentary on it, at the end of the day, it's like, it's my journey. Don't worry about, and this isn't to say that people who've asked you, but, people who have like, comments like, oh, the blue belt quit, or, they're going less, or they're not doing this, or they're not doing that. I was like, well, don't worry about what I do. Like,
Yes.
I always tell my daughter whenever, our neighbor, the little girl across the street, says something or does something that my daughter doesn't agree with or doesn't like. And it's like, well, baby, you worry about you. You don't got to worry about her. If you don't like what she's doing, then okay, don't worry about what she's doing. Like, are you doing what you like to do? Yeah. Okay, cool. Then that's what we're focusing on, baby. We're focusing on what you like to do. And the thing is, when it comes to, yes, the joke with the community is, blue belts quit, and I think, part of that joke is that, once everybody gets there, that's the rank that we see most people drop like flies faster. And it's like, I wonder, maybe not, maybe white belt, we probably have more people dropping out because you get white belts trying to get the blue belt, and that's not necessarily the easiest thing either. So we pin it all on the blue belt, but we probably got a lot of white belts that are quitting more than blue belts. But ultimately, it's like, look, if it's from a stance of, I care about this person and I want to help you, like, let's do this journey together, that's one thing. But if it's, some people like to come from a judgy position, and it's like, well, you can fuck all the way off. I mean, look, if I can only train 1 day per week, I can only train 1 day per week. I had someone question me about, my frequency of training. I was like, again, I've explained it, but you know what? Also on this, I don't have to explain myself to you. I don't have to explain myself to anyone. Like, if my coach asks me, yes, I will willingly explain that to my coach, and I have, and my coach never pressures me about it. He knows when I can get in, and he's like, look, I'm just happy you're here. Like, whether it be 1 day per week, 2 days per week, if you're able to make more, I'm happy to see you still doing jiu-jitsu. and that's what should count. Versus, oh man, that guy used to do 6 days a week. Now he's down to one. Okay.
He's still
Life
showing
happens.
up.
I'm also 45. I got a bad fucking hip. Like that one day per week is brutal on if I could get two, maybe that'll help. But sometimes when I do that second run and that first run, I'm still not recovered. It's like my hip hurts like a motherfucker.
So I think it's funny you said that just about, not caring what other people say and stuff. So recently, social media, oh my gosh, some people have been getting angry on the gram. And I think
You don't say.
It's funny though, because also as I evolve in my jujitsu world, and all my content and things, looking even at the evolution of my social media and how I've changed my perspective and stuff. I've been trying to do a bunch of reels and stuff. I try not to take myself too seriously, but also I actually do social media now for work. So I work for a firm, social media strategist. Like, this is legitimately what I do. I'm just not one of these people that's like, I take myself seriously and everyone needs to see my entire life, right? But I do enjoy putting out content that tries to inspire people, and also trying to speak to, my journey and all of that in jujitsu and as a female and all this stuff. And oh my gosh, lately, Dante, oh my gosh, I had someone recently. Okay, so I don't know if you saw the one reel I did. It got like 200,000. It's like blowing up, right? And all it is about, and everyone can hear me when I say this so that there's full clarification, right? It's a clip. I'm training with one of my friends who just happens to be a male. And the clip says, are you ever nervous about being the only female on the mat? Like in a male-driven sport. And then it clips to, I don't remember the song about walk around the club, fuck everybody or whatever. It's this like song, right? That's pretty hot right now. And then it's a picture of McGregor, right? Walking in with his like, I don't really care. So literally the entire piece of content was about the female experience and how, hey, no, I'm not really intimidated. Even if I am the only female, even if there's 10 females, even if there's none, I just enjoy this sport, right? And generally, jujitsu girls are not intimidated. That was it. Oh my gosh. The people showing up in the comment section. Luckily, there were a lot of females that were obviously supportive and like, hey, this is awesome. But there was this one person, and I'm just going to leave it out there. I'm not going to say their handle or anything because it's comical now. And the people that have shown up to also respond, I can't even remember. It was something along the lines of like, well, no woman would ever submit me. And I was like,
oh yeah, gotta love
number
those
one,
guys.
this piece of content didn't even say anything about submitting dudes. It's also literally about the female experience. So thank you, Joe, for showing up and speaking on the female experience. And then I had someone today even that had jumped on, and I actually almost thought about tagging you in the comment section and saying, looks like we've got some good content. But then I felt like that just might be like putting some embers on the fire a little bit. So I didn't do that. I just figured I would discuss it since it was a new happening in my social media page. So the person came on, and then it was a whole rant about how men are portrayed now as being dumb or weak or all this stuff. And I was like, sir, thank you for the added engagement in my comment section. This video, again, is only about females not being intimidated to train with men. And the amount of people that showed up, it was pretty split. I mean, I would say the majority of the people were pretty supportive. And I was really excited at the amount of BJJ dudes that showed up and said like, hey, yeah, this is great. Like, jujitsu women are strong and confident and all this stuff, but then also the fair amount of them that felt the need to assure me that I could never submit them. And I was like, I wasn't even submitting anyone in the video.
it's always interesting when those cats show up, because I always feel like Instagram, there's like this thing with Instagram where it's like, there's like the bat signal, it's like the ego signal that goes out. It's like, hey, 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 guys, a female just put up a video of her grappling with guys. Attack.
Let's either sexualize it, let's
Yeah,
call her out and say that she's weak, or I don't know. It's crazy.
there's it's like, so on my TikTok, I don't post on the BJJ Wiki TikTok too often. And when I do, it's just stuff from the Instagram.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Like
I just go back and just reshare something from Instagram that I reshare. But I happen to notice this last run of posts I did, because I just did like a full dump, like 8 or 9 posts like in a row,
Okay.
which is probably horrible. But I was like, look, I just
No,
want to
it's okay.
But I realized, so I would do a meme as I would do on BJJ Wiki, and then a technique video. I noticed all the technique videos were all female, like either competing or showing a technique. And I was like, and I'm sitting there thinking like, I'm just waiting to hear from someone pointing
It's
out
gonna
like,
happen.
oh, all these videos are women. Oh, you're so sexist. Stop sexualizing jiu-jitsu. It's like, I'm not sexualized.
Did it happen? Did you get people?
I don't know. So honestly, on TikTok, it's hard for me to even figure out reading comments on TikTok. So I don't even.
Oh my God, I love that you said that. Me too. People always are like, oh, you're on Instagram so much. What about TikTok? I'm like, I have one.
Like,
I don't know how to do it. I mean, I do. Okay, I shouldn't say I don't know how to do it. I do know how to do it. I just don't enjoy it. I don't.
Yeah.
Like Julia, I don't know if you follow her on TikTok, man. She's got some good videos and some good stuff. And then she'll come train with me and she'll say, oh my gosh, did you see that TikTok I sent you? And the one I tagged you, I'm like, I don't even know where my TikTok messages are. Okay, sis, I don't know.
I just got a text from my buddy today because I was watching this morning. I woke up and I was like, oh, I put on pro wrestling. The Royal Rumble was on last night, and something happened. And we're not like avid wrestling fans, but when there's an event on, we'll put it on, because at the end of the day, they're athletic as hell. So it's fun to watch it. And something happened in the ring. So I text my buddy, I was like, oh shit, dude, this just happened. He was like, yeah, I sent it to you. I was like, where? Like, I didn't get anything on Instagram. In my text, I didn't get anything. Like, I sent it on TikTok. I was like, oh, well, dude, I haven't been on TikTok this morning. Like no.
Okay, so the funny thing is, now I feel like I'm dating myself a little bit. I feel like I'm officially the old person that's like, oh, that TikTok that the kids are using these days. So Julia now, instead of messaging me on TikTok, she sends me links to TikTok through my Instagram, or she'll text me the link because she knows I won't see it directly through TikTok.
So I do that to my wife. I send her tons of links in Facebook Messenger. I don't even text them to her. I send them on Messenger, and then she'll look at them later. But she was like, I can't rewind the video. I was like, yeah, and she was like, well, I don't have the app. I was like, oh, okay, well that's why.
Right.
It's like,
so I have one mostly just so that if my clients need help, although granted, the majority of my clients are not on TikTok, thank God. They're using LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of, those platforms. But I think it's so funny. So Julia and I really enjoy the content on Instagram, and I've found great success on it. And she is on both, but man, her TikTok, like the amount of videos that she has that get like tons of views and likes and shares and comments and all this stuff, I am just in awe of her. And then she'll come in and we'll train. She's like, oh, we got to do this audio for TikTok. And I'm always like, oh, okay, just tell me what you need me to do. Like, okay.
I've done one video. It was for Instagram. I looked at my coach one day. I was like, hey, like, because he's a very animated guy. Like, he's the kind of guy that, like, I don't think he has time to really engage with social media, but it's like, dude, you would kill on social media. You like, your personality is just you're the guy. So I says to him one day, I was like, do me a favor. I want you to just, like, like pretend you're instructing something, but say like the crazy, like off the wall stuff. Like, and like, so basically I got the camera on me and I'm looking like I'm really like intently listening. And then I make face like,
Okay.
what? Huh? And I shake my head like, no. And it's at the point where he starts like really like speeding up what he's saying and he starts getting really crazy. So it's like, but he understood what I was doing. I was like, look, I'm trying to do this video. He was like, okay, okay. Like he jumped right to it. He knew. He was like, I get it. I know what you're doing. I was like, if you know what I'm doing, you do it, dude. You're great at this. But like when it comes to TikTok or like in any of the other social medias, it's like I have like I'm on all the platforms. It's just I only really use
Mhm.
Instagram because it's just I mean when BJJ Wiki started, like I was doing this for someone else. It was their platform. They wanted me to run their website. And I was like, can I make an Instagram? I just feel more He was like, you want me to run their Facebook and the website? I was like, yeah, I have no problem. It's all right if I make an Instagram because I feel a little bit more comfortable there. I've been posting on my personal Instagram. He was like, yeah, absolutely. That's why I picked you because I watch your personal Instagram. So yeah, go ahead. And it became what it is. And the thing is, all the other platforms, it's like, I mean, they're there if needed,
Mhm.
but I think when it really comes down to it with a lot of the posts and the comments and everything, whether it be TikTok or Instagram, especially Instagram, because that's where I get the most. The most of the trolls come out on Instagram. The I don't even really engage with them, and most times now because you have to follow me in order to leave me a message, I'll
Mhm.
send you like if you say something shitty, I'm going to reply with if it's really shitty, I'll give you the attention. I'll say thanks for the follow. Just simply and only one person is fired back at me. They as soon as I said that, I don't even remember what post it was. But I said thanks for the follow. He sent me a DM. He called me a cunt and said, "Ha, I unfollowed you now, you stupid cunt." And I sent him a smiley.
Okay.
I was like,
I
okay.
bet he was so
Like,
angry.
I was like, well, like, what do you want out of this? Like, okay, you're angry because you didn't like the technique video. So I put up a video a while back of a young lady. She's a good looking young lady. Uh, and she does a knee bar. Um, and everybody commented about the young lady's like butt. And they're like, "Oh, we know why you posted this." It's like, well, she did she did a move that I like to do. Number one, number two, yeah, she's good looking. I mean, yes, that's going to
Yeah.
help. The algorithm for
It's like you're
sure.
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, but the thing is, it'd be one thing if she's not doing jujitsu. She's just twerking. It's
Right.
like okay, maybe I'm an asshole now. But no, she did a knee bar that I've used before, and I like that knee bar. It all types of engagement did well, mostly positive, but there are a lot of people that had
Mhm.
some really sexist comments to make. Now Mason Fowler just one other day with that same knee bar, so I
Uh,
just reposted that today. I didn't say anything, but I wanted to
just
like kind
wait.
of put in a caption and be like, hey, it's funny that I posted this with a female doing it and you motherfuckers had nothing but like negative and sexist things to say. But as soon as Mason Fowler does it, it's like, oh yeah, champ. And that's not to say, Mason Fowler, I mean, he's amazing. I'm a big fan. But it's like it's just that weird thing that people like to do on social media where it's like, let's attack, especially when it's female. Let's attack. Like I'll never
So
get submitted by a female. Female can never beat me. Then it's like, okay.
I think part of it is that and of course I'm not speaking to every female, and also I'm certainly not speaking to every jujitsu male I've encountered. I'm surrounded by some really amazing supportive male practitioners that train with me, as well as some of my followers. I actually in that same video had some really awesome guys that came in, and actually the great thing, and I'm sure you can attest to this, some when you have a pretty large following that actually is engaging, sometimes you don't even have to show up. They act like someone just hurt their little brother or sister, and they're like, oh, hold the phone, right? So there were quite a few guys that, had commented to this one individual who was like, oh, well, no woman would ever tap me, or blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, as he's continuing to talk, it's obvious this person is a troll. He admits that he's a white belt and he's 17 and and everyone is just like, okay, like, let's connect the dots here, buddy. And the one today, actually, I have to say, I know this is going to sound weird, I actually thought it was pretty productive. So the person came on and they didn't use any foul language or anything. They were just stating their opinion at how, men are portrayed now in the media, right? Which also is interesting to me as someone who is in school studying media, society, culture, communications, and that sort of thing, right? So of course, he doesn't know this. He thinks he's about to pull one over on some little person that did some content, right? And I'm going to feel bad. So he shares his opinion about, how men are portrayed nowadays and they look dumb and da-da-da-da. And, of course, I don't even want to say fire back because I stayed very calm. And, my response was just like, hey, I'm really sorry at how you interpreted my piece of media. This actually is speaking to the female experience. So I appreciate you showing up as a male to tell me, you know what I mean? Like about the female experience, but also I think that a lot of times people, now there are absolutely some female jujitsu fighters out there that is their whole thing. Like, oh, they feel like they have to prove themselves, right, as a female in this community. And let's be honest, we know why. We know why, because there are those people out there. There are those jujitsu guys out there that have an ego, and there are those jujitsu females out there that have an ego, but when I post, comment, and I share things, it's normally just about my experience that I've had. And it's more about encouraging women to try the sport than it is saying, do the sport so that you can beat up boys. Like that's never ever my intent. And I feel like I try to go to great lengths to portray that. But every now and then I will get someone that shows up in my comments or on my page that tries to tell me that, I don't know what I'm doing, or, oh, they could submit me easy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not saying I could submit anyone. Maybe you could submit whatever. I'm just saying, like, don't be a douche. Like, let's just all do some jujitsu, man.
Like, I think that's the thing that really kind of gets to me at times too, is when, you could post, you could put up a post, talk about self-defense, use jujitsu for self-defense. And then you'll get one of many people, the ones that'll say, well, Krav Maga's better.
Oh my gosh.
Or you'll get someone that says, what's the other one? Oh, well, your best defense is just to have a gun.
Oh, yeah, okay. What's your jujitsu going to do in a gunfight? Oh, well, I'm not going to do jujitsu if you have a gun. I'm going to run. Like, who's thinking an idiot?
That's what I'm
going to sit down and pull guard on you when you got me a gun.
I've said it on here multiple times. My cousin has always said to me, well, what would you do if I had a gun? I'm like, do you have a gun now? No, then I'm gonna fuck you up. Right? And then my uncle asked me that once. Like, what would you do if I had a gun? And I my uncle, he beat my ass right there on the spot. So I was like, well, if you had a gun, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, it's you got a gun. I'm not trying to use jujitsu. I'm not, jujitsu isn't like a bulletproof vest. It's not an invisibility cloak. Jiu-jitsu is a good tool to have in your pocket. Like it's a nice weapon to have, if you're in a bad situation. In jiu-jitsu, it doesn't mean like, okay, I know jiu-jitsu. If I'm in an altercation, I'm going to go and try to, throw a triangle on somebody or an arm bar. No, it's, about knowing leverage and pressure and being able to control another person's body. If there's an altercation and I get tangled up with somebody, I like my chances in a scramble better than their chances because of what I know versus what they don't know. They're going to probably try to throw a punch. They're going to probably miss. I'm probably going to fuck them up. Or if they do connect with that punch, kudos to them. I don't know how my chin holds up. I've never been knocked out, but I'm 45. I don't
I
know.
feel
My
like
chin might
too,
be gone.
as a female, it's kind of the same way, people that talk about the self-defense aspect. I'm like, look, I don't do jujitsu so that I can get in some cat fight with someone or so that I
Yeah.
can throw down at the bar. I like to train jujitsu, one, just because I enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy the sport. I like it. It's fun. I like the camaraderie. But also, like, let's face it, as a female, chances are, statistically speaking, chances are anyone that would attempt to attack me is going to be larger than me. And that's part of why I try to encourage so many women to train jujitsu. Is I'm like, you don't have to ever compete. It just would be nice to at least be aware of, like, hey, what happens if someone is bigger than me and they get on top of me? Because again, statistically speaking, that is the type of attack that as females we are trying to avoid. Call it whatever you want it. So that's why I like jujitsu. If some giant person tries to mount me, I'm gonna have a little bit of a defense other than just, oh no, please stop. Right. For me personally. So it just, yeah, it definitely irritates me when people show up and they're like, oh, well, a woman would never be able to submit me. Maybe she couldn't submit you, but maybe she could keep you from being a really terrible human and trying to do something you shouldn't do. Like, you know what I mean? I just, when you show up like that in the comments, I'm like, we see your true colors. Like, just, I
Exactly.
see you.
As soon as I see a guy jump into a comment section and start kind of talking about why this wouldn't work, like, and I used to say this, I don't say it anymore, but like a couple times, I'm like, wow, you really sound kind of rapey right now. You know, it's like, you know, if you're looking at,
I mean,
there,
well,
there's a video, I reposted this years ago. It was a young lady and her friend, an attacker. It looks like it was at night. Apparently, this was in Brazil. Someone that commented, I believe. An attacker comes out of nowhere, and the friend takes off and runs. He's
which is
like,
still
"Damn,
smart. That's a really valid tactic. Maybe not
just
to
left
leave
her
your
home."
friend, but
Yeah,
I
she
know,
just left her
right?
home. He was like, "See ya." It's like, "Hey, I'll tell your story." Um,
I was running to get
but
home.
like, I was trying to get help. There was no one in that direction.
I know, right?
Um, but the one that stayed behind, she ended up falling to her back, and the guy's trying to get to her, and
Yeah.
she's using her feet. She's keeping that distance, and of course, you get people jumping in the comments. Now, imagine if that guy had a gun. It's like, okay, don't be
Well,
that guy. Like, it's like, yeah, yes.
yeah.
Imagine if they did have a gun, we wouldn't see this video like this. But the fact is, they didn't have a gun, and the fact is, this woman used her training to keep that guy away from her. It got to a point where he was like, okay, I'm not going to get past this girl's legs, and he took off running the other way. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's like, again, jujitsu, isn't just about being able to get somebody to the ground and submit them. It's about, body awareness, space,
Yes.
distancing. There's just so many different aspects to jujitsu that's going to help you in a fight. And, I have, you know, friends in my life that I always, suggest, like, dude, give it a try. Come out and try it. And then I have other friends who say, like my wife's best friend, we were at their house, had a little bonfire going on. There's woods around the house. And we kept hearing stuff in the woods. It was probably a deer or something. And we're all sitting there. It's like, both sets of parents and the three kids. And, the wife goes, if there's somebody in the woods trying to come up on us, they picked the wrong group of people. And just me kind of joking, it was like, why? I'm the only one here who can fight. Um,
Oh my gosh, the
you know,
amount of times when I'm out with girlfriends and they're like, "Oh, we'll be fine. Paige is the blue belt." I'm like, I did not train so that I could defend your drunk ass in a bar.
yeah. And that's my whole thing. It's like, look, yeah, if there's a crowd coming at us,
I'm
like,
out.
it's not about fighting. We better be able to run. Like, and I mean, granted, we have the kids, so we got to scoop the kids up and go. But
Gotta
this
get the
isn't like the moment
kids.
to try to sit back and fight. But also, this same friend has been, quoted as saying like, I can handle myself in a fight, I'm scrappy. And I remember saying to this person, it was like, look, my main training partner at the time was a female, and technique, she like, I had no answers for her. She was just so much more technical to me. Now, if I decided I don't want to be technical today, I want to be spazzy and I want to be a white belt, I'm going to outmuscle her and I'm going to be inconsiderate, and it's going to be not okay. And this is someone that's trained. Now, the person who's not trained saying I'm scrappy is like, okay, I'm proud of you for being scrappy, but do understand this. Someone that's trying to do you harm does not worry about you being scrappy. And if they are genuinely trying to hurt you, it's just going to be that they're going to try to hurt you. Like, at least learn a little bit of something so that way your scrappiness does go somewhere. It does help you. And,
I
and
think
it,
too, just being like you said, body awareness and being aware. And again, obviously, I say this because I am a female jujitsu practitioner, so I would love for every single female to give it a try. But then you also hear the argument where people are like, oh, it's not really not self defense. Okay, so from a competitive jujitsu standpoint, if you're purely talking about it from a sport aspect, no, right? But if you're talking about it from a, hey, we should encourage more women to walk in and do jujitsu, even if we didn't call it self defense, in my opinion, from the women's self defense classes I took in college and growing up, I am not stabbing you with my keys. Okay. I would much prefer to know how to, like you said, keep that distance if I get taken down to the ground. I'm not thinking about a triangle. I'm not thinking about an armbar. But if I train jujitsu 2 days a week, even 1 day a week, every week for a year, my reflexes and my body awareness are going to be, oh shit, I'm on my back. My feet need to go to work, and I need to either keep the distance with my feet, or I need to do some technical standing. I need to get up. I need to get out. You know what I mean? Those sorts of things. Or even, we talk a lot of times about like how to get out of a headlock, how to also not let someone get to your back, because that's really just a life skill in general. Like, I don't want you behind me. I don't know what you're doing. And
yeah,
if I train jujitsu, not that it means that I'm never going to be attacked or that I'm never going to be in a situation where I can't win, but it means that I'm going to be a little more prepared and aware of my surroundings and what to do. I mean, hey, people take driver's ed, right, before they get their driver's license and before they can learn how to drive. So, like, why would you not want to at least expose yourself to some jujitsu? Give it a try, especially from a female standpoint. And it does, man, all the time. If I go out, and I know that they mean well. I know that they're like proud that, oh, Paige does this and it's this cool thing, whatever. But a lot of times, oh well, it's fine. We've got Paige. Those guys better not look over our way. We've got her here. Like, but what if you just learned how to defend yourself, sis? Like, what
yeah,
if you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to get a blue belt, but like, what if you popped into a class or two and like kind of was aware of like what maybe you should do? Because I'm not always going to be there. And also, I'm not trying to protect all 10 of you a couple shots in at the bar because I'm a little blue belt. Like, no, what?
well, I always think about that when I'm out with my friends, and I don't go out too often anymore. A big part of it is because of just number one, I'm old. I get
Same.
tired fast. It's like, hey, you want to go out? What time are we going out? 9 p.m.
Whatever.
like, 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 why would you go out that late? Are we going to like breakfast? Like, what are we doing? Like, no, we're going out. Like, no, fuck all that. But like, I remember saying this to my buddy a while back. It's like when I'm out, I'm just hyper aware. Now, I'm always like paranoid and hyper aware anyway, but now it's even more so. And it's kind of in this vein of I'm really aware because if some shit goes down, I'm not trying to fight. Like, I'm gonna try to get my crew together. Like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Like,
Yeah.
because my first step in any kind of self defense thing, if there's no physical engagement yet, I'm I'm running. I'm getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to physically engage unless you put your hands on myself or, my family.
That's why it kills
Then,
me when people have that argument of like, well, what are you going to do in a gunfight or a knife? I'm going to run. I'm not going to use
yeah,
jujitsu. I'm not going to triangle you if you have a gun. Idiot.
yeah, like,
That's
well,
not a solid argument.
there's something I put up, again, talk about female self-defense, and I can remember this was a while back. Like when I say a while back, because I post the frequency of how I post. It could have honestly been a month ago, but I feel like it was probably 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Either way, it was talking about something to do with female self-defense, and a lot of comments were either get a gun or get a man. And
Ugh.
my whole thing is my wife works at nights, and my wife goes to DC. She works with other families. She's a newborn care specialist, so she's basically, you got a baby, she's there to take care of the baby while you're sleeping. And she's in a decent area in DC, so she's not like in any of the rough areas, but in those instances, it's like people are like, well, get a man, or get a gun. It's like,
You gonna go to work with her every single day?
yeah, it's like, yeah, she has a man. It's me, and I'm working during the day. She's working at night, and it's like, well, you're not any kind of man then if she has to. It's like, eat a dick, like,
If
like,
she has to.
okay, buddy, like,
Are there
but
still people out there like that? Oh.
oof. I mean, the funny thing is, and it's like, I'm like, come over to where I am right now, like where I am in Maryland. But then it's like, well, you're down in Georgia though, so I got a feeling there's a handful of cats, in some of those pockets
There are
too.
there's some personalities down south for sure. Although the
But
funny thing is, the majority of my following is not, I mean, other than the females that are down here that know me personally, the majority of my following are like across the US and some international. So thankfully, I don't have too
same.
many good old Southern boys following me, unless they're people I went to high school with.
Yeah, most of my following, if you're following me in Maryland, it's like I don't, we don't know it, we don't know until I'm like talking to somebody like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? Cool. So where are you located? Oh, I'm in Maryland. Oh shit, me too. So we're in the same time zone. All right, cool. Never mind. We can like record whenever. But it's just like, that argument of like, get a man or get a gun. And the thing is, again, okay, so let's say they have a gun, and let's say they go to the shooting range, so they know how to shoot stationary objects, things like that. But let's say there's a scuffle and the gun gets taken away.
Yeah. Oh, you just
That
give up now?
like, it's like, okay, they've lost their weapon now. Things like that. That's not to say that's every situation, but it's like,
Well, no, but it's a matter of preparedness for life in general. Is what I feel like jujitsu is good for.
well, and my stance is, honestly, I say, have both. Have the ability
Yeah.
to use a weapon, but also have the ability to defend yourself without one as well. You shouldn't have to go to the weapon as your first resort. Like, with everything that's going on right now, just in our nation with people being shot and killed. It's like, more often than not, people are jumping to use the gun first and then ask questions later. It's like, yeah, I mean, I feel like there's another way to address this, like maybe
Yeah.
detain the person. But in the case of the female, I mean, again, it's a lot different, but at least having some kind of preparedness and being able to defend yourself, and then just not even just that, but like being able, like having some sort of self-defense in your pocket gives you that confidence too, of like, speaking up and verbally saying, hey, back up. That's what I always explain to my wife with jiu-jitsu. It's like, I'm going to always try to like de-escalate if I have to, or I'm going to try to exit. But I do know that I have the ability to fight if it comes down to that.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I feel like knowing that you could do it gives you the confidence to try to remove yourself from the situation or to try to diffuse the situation. Now, granted, you and I might be different from other people. Other people might be like, yeah, I'm a Ezekiel, this dude in the bar. And those are not my people, and that's fine. But like
same here.
It's so funny though, the amount of people that show up, now again, that, the growth on social media and the things I'm trying to do and the message that I'm trying to be about and spread and all this. And then people that, show up in the comments, although I'm at a point now in my social media journey and jujitsu journey and all that, where I'm just like, okay, hey buddy, thank you for all these comments where you're raging on the female experience. You super boosted my engagement. Keep going. Like, I'm not going to engage with you,
Yeah. Well, I also think about that too, is like when it's social media, because like you're saying, and myself as well, we know people in the community, we train with people in the community, and they're all wonderful people, male and female. But then suddenly when we get to social media, we run into a lot more that are like, hey, wait a minute.
It's all the blue belts that quit. They're taking to social media.
It's like, all right, I'm out of here.
They're weighing in.
Like, I'm gonna get out of jiu-jitsu, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go on social media.
Jiu-jitsu troll.
Just enough. I know just enough to tell them that it doesn't work.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's it's all goofiness and nonsense. But as we talked about social media. Let's talk a little bit more about you and your social media journey.
You see me getting excited. They can't see my face right now. I'm like, okay.
So I mean, I've always felt like you've been kind of a major player on social media, period. Like, your name is there. It's known. People know it. BJJ Mama.
I love it. We were at Fight to Win last night, and someone came up to me and they literally said, "Oh my gosh, hey BJJ Mama." Ooh, this is funny. We should see the timestamp of when we finally said BJJ Mama, like how long you have to listen to the episode to know who the guest is if you don't already know who I am, right? Yeah, like it's totally not anything I had planned on at all. But I think that's, in a weird way, part of my success. I did not jump onto the platforms with an attempt to be anything. And it was funny. We were at Fight to Win last night, and sometimes I forget, like, when people are looking at me, and I never know, like, oh my God, are you looking at me because I have something in my teeth? Are you looking at me because I have this, like, kind of a little bit unusual haircut, right? So like last night I had like a whole French braid bun, like mohawk thing going on. So I'm like, are you looking at me because of my hair, or do you follow me on social media? I don't know. Like, I always feel so awkward not knowing. But yeah, I enjoy social media. I don't even know where to start with that. It's totally snowballed into like a full-blown career now.
So with you, kind of just stumbling into it, if you will.
Yeah.
What was, because like you said, this wasn't anything planned, but when did you like realize, like, hey, wait a minute, like, I have a voice here?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, when Facebook came out years before I was even a mom or married and all this stuff, like, I kind of enjoyed, like, oh, click a photo and share it, right? I didn't do a ton of the like tagging or the trying to like promote businesses and stuff. I just like used it pretty generic for personal, family, and friends, right? I wasn't trying to seek any sort of larger audience. So then we opened our jiu-jitsu studio, Mat Club Martial Arts, and I started, okay, well, if we're going to do this, like, he's going to teach, I'm going to like just manage stuff in terms of like the website, or, well, he does a lot of the website, but the social media and the communicating with people aspect of it. So I did a little bit, I dabbled, we don't get a ton of new members just from our Instagram or social media platform. So it was really just making sure that we had a presence so that people could find us when they go there. So then after I had our daughter, I don't remember when it happened. This is like how I just got sucked in and realized like, oh, I'm kind of good at this and I enjoy it. So we were doing I don't even know if you remember me posting this or if I was even following BJJ Wiki at this time. I did tummy time at our studio where I was a new mom and I really wanted to connect with other moms, but I didn't know how. But also we had this new business that I was like, I'm going to try to like find some way to like make these things work together. So I created what was called this like tummy time thing. So parents would bring their children to our studio like 10 o'clock in the morning, right? We didn't have any other regular classes there. We would put toys out and then the kids would play on the mat. So then as we were doing this activity, I was like, man, what if there was like this page that you could go to just find stuff to do with your kid, right? Like, I don't care about politics. I don't want people arguing about things. Like, let me just like make this for my small amount of friends, right? So I created this Facebook page purely for moms in Georgia to just find each other and then meet up at parks and stuff, right? It got 5,000 followers in. Now, remember, this is like heyday Facebook. That's a lot then. Today, people are like, oh, well, that's like nothing, right? So, but like
5,000
6 or 7 years. That's what well, yeah, but I mean, like 7 years ago. And remember, we're talking about a very small niche market, not even just moms with kids. We're talking about like specifically in Georgia, right? To be able to have that many people that connected and were using the page. And it totally grew Georgia Moms and Munchkins. Like, it became a whole name. I had wristbands and bracelets, and we did meetups, and businesses would reach out to me to come and do events there. Just like, hey, if she comes, then she's going to tell all those people, and then they're all going to come. Right. So then that's how it started to grow. And then at some point I had to kind of pull back. I had to rein it in because I was doing an exorbitant amount of work, and it wasn't really a job, but I was also a new mom and, juggling stuff. So I kind of took a step back, and then I still had my own personal Instagram account. And I was like, well, let me, I think I'm going to really like double down on what my message is and who I'm trying to reach. And I really love jujitsu. And what if I could just try to inspire more female jujitsu athletes or just people in general to do jujitsu? I'm going to share my journey. I'm going to be pretty specific about what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to tell every single detail about my life, but I'm going to at least show my life. And I feel like, as long as you followed me, you know what I'm trying to say. Like, I share some, not everything. I don't take myself too seriously, but I do take what I do seriously. So then that evolved, right? BJJ Mama, I changed the handle. It was official. I somehow managed to get this handle and it wasn't taken. So now there's all sorts of like, there's a jujitsu mom I follow. There's a jujitsu _ BJJ mom, right? Like, but I'm the OG. I like to say, I like to consider myself the OG. So then the BJJ Mama page kind of started growing, and I just really decided probably about a year ago. I feel like we had kind of messaged when I decided to go back to school. Where I was like, okay, things are changing. So I used to have a degree in sports and recreation management, and that was my focus. I ran facilities, large pool, gym, events, athletic director, like I was there all the time. And about a year ago, when our little one went back to school after homeschooling, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to re-enter the workforce soon, but I don't know if I want to go be in an office all the time, on a pool deck all the time, crazy hours in the summer. Like, that is a job. I commend those people that are in Parks and Recreation. Like, I know everyone's got their Parks and Rec jokes, but like, they are there all the time. So I was like, oh, how am I going to, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up, right? So just about a year ago, my husband came to me and he was like, well, what do you think? You want to, the kid's going back to school. What do you want to do? Like, what are you going to do? So I decided to go back to school for communications because I wanted to really explore it's still cringy, but I'm trying to get over it and find my voice. Like, it always feels awkward to me to say as a 34-year-old mom, like, yeah, I'm a social media specialist, right? So I'm in school, communications. I'm studying media, society, and culture, social media's effect on, individuals and our society. Um, and it's just now totally turned into a career, and I'm having fun with it. I now work for a company called Office Angels, where they have clients that don't really do their social media a lot, but they know that they need it for their business. So that's where I come in. I'm not trying to be Instagram famous on a personal level, but what I do for my clients is I teach them how to use social media. I teach them how to understand. And I know you know these things because of having such a large following on your platforms, teaching your face, teaching them how to understand the insights, know what the algorithm is, understand how to do a reel and what type of content to do. Because there's this big misconception out there where people are like, oh, the algorithm hates me, or trying to hop on I'm shadow banned, or trying to hop on every single trend, or thinking that they must go viral to be successful, right? So I come in and I try to teach people that, like, that's not, let's take a step back and let's learn how to use this tool. I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's sort of like how I started and where I'm at. And then now, just being able to do it for other people is so much fun, especially because sometimes I'm going to geek out a little bit. The majority of my clients, I create their content and their stuff. So people don't know that it's me, like a little ghost author here.
And I think I think the ideal with that though too, like you said, there are businesses, there are companies that, social media is the movement now. It's been for a very long time, and there's some companies that are just like, I just don't know how to make this work. I don't know how to manipulate this, and that's where someone like yourself would come in, and I think that's very important because more and more people, when you find a product, you're finding it through social media. You're finding it through a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat.
It's still considered referral based. That's what I try to explain to people. The old school terminology is, oh, well, we're a very like referral based business. Yeah, that's what social media is. Someone tries it and then they share your link, they share your page, they tag your business and stuff. Like, how do we create content that is going to help other people refer your business? Like, it's just evolved, right? It's marketing evolved.
A friend of mine, and I truly appreciate him. He's a great guy and he means well. And he reached out to me not too long ago. He goes, "Hey, would you be interested in running social media for a company?" And I told him, I was like, I wouldn't not be interested. I would say that. But, this is just him. He hadn't spoken with anyone yet. He was just thinking because he had seen, Off the Mats. He'd seen So You Like Horror. He'd seen BJJ Wiki. He was like, you have something here. He was like, and, he suggested it. He was like, look, I'll talk to them and, see what's going on their end. And I was like, I appreciate that. I mean, look, let me just let you know beforehand, if that is a possibility, it's something I'd have to really think about as well on my own, because just because I have these accounts and they're doing what they're doing doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. Like, I know what I'm doing to some degree for me.
Well, but that's part of your success in your niche market is what people don't understand. So they'll automatically see someone with 1 million followers and be like, oh, that's who we want. They know everything. Well, okay, but jujitsu, like, it's very specific.
But like, for him, he saw like the following and everything on various accounts. And, again, trying to explain, like, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm not interested by any means. It's just, you have to understand that for me, I'd have to figure out, there's a lot of work that's going to go into it for me, and understand that this is a learning process completely. So just because I can make this look good for jujitsu and horror movies, even, and thrive there, it doesn't mean that that translates over to. There's a comic book shop in town that needed a social media marketer, and I'm like, dude, that could be right up my alley. But at the same time, then you have to think about comics. It's not just Marvel and DC. It's Image Comics. It's Boom Studios. It's Dynamite Comics. There's so many studios and there's so many books. There's so much promotion. So it's like, as soon as I thought about that, I was like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and fall back. Like that. That's a lot.
I think people forget about social media, and I try to, like with my clients, I try to talk about this. The best part of my job is that my job literally is to help them learn how to use it and enjoy it, and remind them, like, I get this question all the time. Well, so do I have to dance? Well, I don't know. Is your audience a bunch of people that want to learn the latest TikTok dance? Because if it's not, then no, you don't have to dance. You don't have to do all these certain things. But that's also where, we were talking about how you have a big following and you're really successful. So I almost get the opposite a lot of times when people are like, oh, so you're like a social media strategist. Cool. Let me see your pages. And they're like, oh, well, you only have like 2,000 followers. I'm like, let me just screenshot you that my insights, where my reach is 314,000 people in 30 days. So I think that's where a lot of people don't completely understand how social media works. And that's where a little bit of the evolution of it has come from. You know what I mean? Like, people, originally it was just sharing some pictures on Facebook and a little bit of content here and there. But now, like, it's a whole method for marketing. And I think that businesses are starting to finally understand that.
Yeah. I also think too, there are still some people that are in this older school mindset of it as well, where it's like, again, looking at like, oh, your follow base, it's not that it's not that high, but like you said, the insights. But I think there's still some people, even in the old school model mindset of, even with insights being available and seeing it, it's like, well, no, we want to see things on surface. We want other people to be able to see us thriving as well. And it's like, I mean, I get that, but because
It
for
also
me,
depends on your business too. Like, I have quite a few clients who I have increased their engagement. They've booked clients, but I'm not trying to gain them 5,000 followers. So a lot of times
yeah.
you can have an audience and still reach them and be more successful than someone who has a massive reach or a massive following. It's about understanding your audience and your market.
So, and that's what I was going to say. It's like, I have 101,000 followers, and the reach is pretty substantial.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's not consistent. That there'll be some weeks where, and it's all depending on what I post.
Well, that's because
Obviously,
you're enjoying it. It's not a job. And that's
well,
also why
exactly.
you're successful right now in this market.
And yeah, that's when the ideal came about. That's part of my hesitancy, because then it becomes a job. Then it becomes a question of, well, wait a minute, this post only did this much, or the reach is down, 0.5%, and it's like, well, look, ebb and flows, buddy. Sometimes you're going to be up, sometimes you're going to be down. There's on my So You Like Horror page, I reposted a video of someone climbing into the attic and their friend pranked them. And when I reposted it, immediately, I want to say within the week, it was at 100,000 likes. It had like close to 2 million views, things like that. And I went to find the original source, and they only had like 400 likes on it. Their views on it. It wasn't so. For that, I was just in the right place at the right time. It wasn't even because that account that I had was, it was still kind of new, still up and coming. So it's like, now someone could look at that and say, oh my God, like, look at that. Like, look at those numbers over the next 3 months. That's great. And now those numbers are dipping down because
It's
the
circumstantial.
Yeah, and I put up another post that did really well too. But again, that next post came up probably a month later. So again, big spikes, back down. So and it's not even like I'm doing anything particular in particular that's gonna say, okay, I'm ready to get some more traction. So for me, that's why I was like, look, like I'll be happy to look into it. I just know I got a lot to learn. Um,
Yeah.
because like for social media for myself, again, it may look like I know what I'm doing. I don't. I'm just here. Like
Well,
I
you're
post
doing
things.
something right.
Well, I mean, I communicate with people. I talk with
Yeah.
people. I engage. I mean, I think that is a big part of it.
Well, at some level, you have to enjoy that, you know. So when when I was thinking about going back to school and stuff, and I kind of dissected, like, okay, what did I really enjoy about my in-person job, right? So I enjoyed connecting with people. I enjoyed planning things. I enjoyed like creating marketing pieces about events and programs that I had going on. So for me, social media was kind of a natural evolution of, okay, well, I can combine these things and still do them from home, which is important to me, you know, to be able to be present for my kid and stuff, just for me, for what I wanted. So social media, it does still sometimes. So when people are like, oh, what do you do? I feel so awkward being like, I do social media, because I think that a lot of time there's this perception that when someone says they do social media, it's because I'm trying to be an Instagram influencer, right? Who has 1 million followers. I'm like, no, actually, I'm a strategist, and I do some one of the big things that I do will, like, I'll work with a client and we'll create a content strategy, which is just like any other business. I mean, we sit down and I like hardcore research, like, okay, what's your market? Who's your audience? What's your goal? How are we going to reach them? How are we going to use hashtags? Let's make a calendar of exactly the type of content we're going to share, when we're going to share it, why we're going to share. I mean, you know, it's definitely
Yeah,
like it's evolving. It's a whole business.
I think there was a point with BJJ Wiki where I did go into kind of the ideal of when to post, um, because the original person who wanted me, doing the BJJ Wiki Facebook and website management, when I started doing the Instagram setup, I would post at 7 a.m. Do whatever post it was going to be 7 a.m. First thing in the morning. All right, cool. Then I would do another post at around noon because
Mhm.
I'm thinking about West Coast. It's like it's going to be about 9 o'clock for them. So it hits things there, and then it starts kind of the momentum picks up a little bit
Mhm.
later for them, and then over here it's lunchtime. So and then my last post would be about, I want to say, like between 6 and 8 p.m.
Mhm.
And again, there's reasons for all those times, and I even mentioned to the guy, I said the reason why I do the noon post here is because of people on their lunch break, or they might be taking a bathroom break and they're sitting on their phone, or and then I
Mhm.
thought about that 6 o'clock post, same deal over there on the on the West Coast now, or no, I did it wasn't 6, but it was like it was a later post, it was like somebody might be taking another break,
Yeah,
so
it just depends on your goal too. So a lot of times, and there has also been a shift in the industry from the management side, like not stressing yourself out about having an hourly post always at 10 or always at 9. It's just making sure that you're producing quality content that's relatable to your audience, which you definitely do a really good job of. Obviously, you're posting jujitsu content and all this stuff. But that's kind of, it's an ebb and flow, I feel like, and it's evolving. So
I think there's also the stress, or really the ideal of taking the stress away from wanting to have a home run post every time out, because
oh my
that's
gosh,
not
yes.
going to be the case. Like I put up a post the other day. I looked back at it. I was like, oh my god, didn't that post reach no one. But then and this is really big on TikTok too, because I'll put up a post on TikTok and it's like, well, how many people saw that post? 30. What the fuck? And then you look at the following post, it's like, how many people saw that post? 10,000. What?
Well, I would
Well,
tell you there's also strategies to fix that, but
well, to be
That's the
fair,
discussion for a whole nother day. Like there actually are legitimate strategies of like liking, commenting certain things before you do other activities so that you pop up in notifications. That's my like free little nugget there for everybody. That's a real thing.
well, like for Instagram, I'm more like Instagram. I'm more interested in that versus TikTok. I'm just like,
Mhm.
like I'm not even gonna be there anymore. I'm just gonna post and ghost. It's like
Yes, that is the term. And depending on your goal, it can not matter if you post and ghost, or it could
I
hurt you.
I do that a lot with the Nerd Rage Radio Facebook because again, we get a lot of trolls, and it's like, look, I'm not really trying to get into these comic book debates with you right now, or even on BJJ Wiki. I will post and kind of ghost, like I like if I put up a post and there's a lot of positive feedback, I'm gonna at least give you the heart. I'll like it and let you know
And then
I've seen
circle
it.
back.
um and it depends. Sometimes I might actually give a comment back besides a smiley face or a laugh emoji. I might actually kind of engage a little bit. I put up a post several weeks back um about suicide awareness. I tend to do that a couple times a week, and uh, someone the post that I put up was basically saying something to the effect of your friends would rather hear you talk about it than rather than hear your eulogy. And
Yeah.
someone came in and he wasn't making a nasty comment. He was voicing his opinion. And I sent him a DM to talk to him because I didn't want to have the conversation in the regular feed because
Right. You just don't
it's
know which
private.
direction it's going to go.
Well, I felt like it would be positive. I just didn't want his business out there. So I spoke with him personally. Very nice young man, and we became friends. We check in on each other every week or two now. Um, but like that was one example. But I took it to the DMs. There was someone else that commented, and it was again another positive comment, and I replied back. Just trying to keep the positivity going. Now, someone else
Yeah.
also came back with a shitty comment.
Oh no.
I did not engage with them.
Did you delete the comment or hide it?
Yep, I deleted the
Good.
comment and I blocked them. It was like, get the fuck out of here.
Good.
Now, on jiu-jitsu comments, when people do will make a negative comment, I leave
Mhm.
it so they can get their asses beat by the rest of the community. Because it's like, you know what?
That is a
You want to be a
tactic
dick?
as well, and it increases your engagement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't ever take those down. Like if there's like an argument going back and forth, I hop in to read just to make sure it's not
Like
getting
with your
like
popcorn.
yeah. Oh
See
yeah, no,
what's going down.
there's some that I'm entertained, but then there's some I try to make sure that the comments don't get too out of hand because then
Oh,
I'll get
right.
up
Yeah, yeah.
and delete it. But most of the time, I think all have been pretty okay where it's not been personal attacks, but yeah, a lot of times I just sit there and I read them like in entertainment, thinking, dude, this is so good for my engagement. Thanks, guys.
I know. That's how I felt about this one person that kept, commenting about a female would never. And I just, oh my gosh, the amount of people that were like, just came at him
Yeah, I
just
mean,
because I didn't even say like y'all go check out this comment section. They just did it, and then now
yeah,
it has close to 300,000 views on Instagram Reels, which is a lot for Reels. That's
yeah.
great for me. It's great engagement. Fantastic. Thank you.
There's some posts I put up a couple years back, and someone came in with a nasty comment, and student of BJJ, Zach, he
Oh
jumped
yeah, I
in.
love him.
Like I love when he jumps in because he's such a calculated and intelligent guy. So when he responds, he's just
He
not
drops the
blindly
mic.
coming at you. Yeah, he's giving you some knowledge, and then he drops the mic. And I'm just like, in some cases, I'm like, dude, like give them a chance to retaliate. I need the engagement. But then at other times, like, just shut him up. Like,
Oh my
I'm
God,
sick of
remember
this
when I
guy.
did that reel forever ago with all the controversy stuff that was going on, and I was playing around with making reels, and the talk to me one about I talked back because I was trying to like
Yeah,
come at people from my online friends. I feel like that's totally the vibe.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just engagement on these platforms. I mean, when you really, kind of get, at least for me, when I get into it, it's, got kind of two paths. It's either a path of like letting people kind of get their frustrations out, whether it be,
Yeah.
trolls arguing, or, if there is something to be learned, like from a good back and forth discussion. And I see that quite often, just a good back and forth discussion.
Yeah, I think that that's part of the evolution of it too. Like when I first started, I would get so upset or I would be so heated about something. And then I had to finally realize to just take a step back. Like, hey, this is the internet. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
these people. And also, I mean, you really don't know who's behind the keyboard. So I always try to at least be careful and I try to be kind and, or don't engage with some things or to make an effort to disengage with others. But there's definitely ways of there's definitely different running a semi-personal account and then the business account and just the whole world of social media itself. But I feel like there's thankfully a shift in the community across most social media platforms and like a demand for realism. Like, what do you really look like?
Yeah.
What do you really sound like? Who are you as a person? And from a business standpoint, like, I try to talk to my clients a lot of times, like, LinkedIn is professional, very professional. We put out our work, what we're good at. And then our Instagram is, this is silly, but I use the analogy. It's kind of like going to a work happy hour, right? So like we're a little looser. We're having some drinks. We're telling some semi-personal stories, but not too much, right? Not too much because we're still at work and it's professional. So I feel like that's kind of so I do a lot of social media, LinkedIn stuff with the social media work too. So I always try to educate people and like all the platforms are used in a completely different way. I feel like TikTok is very much look at me. Instagram is very much like still a little look at me, but also like, hey, my life and growth and, connecting with people. I feel like we connect a little bit more on Instagram than we do on TikTok. And then LinkedIn is obviously professional. We've got like our business suit on. And then Facebook is still just trying to figure out I don't know, just trying to figure it out, right? Because there's Facebook Reels now, there's reposts from stuff. I forget that I have my Facebook linked up with my Instagram so that I'll post something to Instagram. And then family, I probably have like 20 Facebook friends now because I just deleted everyone and it's up for like aunts and uncles, right? To see family stuff. But I'll forget and they'll be like, oh, we saw that thing on Facebook. I'm like, dude, I haven't posted on Facebook in a year. And then I'm like, oh, my stories share, like whatever.
That's how my personal Instagram is. I always forget. So when I go to it, it's like, oh yeah, let me post something. It went from just posting just random stuff, then it was like post like, oh, comic book stuff, then it started becoming jiu-jitsu stuff. Then once I got BJJ Wiki, then it went to like, okay, I'll just post like family stuff. Then it just became, all right, this is going to be my account to just post whatever
Memes
random
and
things I
stuff. I
see.
love it.
Yeah, I just went through my phone the other day. It was like, dude, I have all these memes I saved over the last like 4 years that
Me
it's
too.
time to dump them. And I debated. I was like, okay, if I go to my personal Instagram and dump all these memes now, how many people will unfollow me? And then I
You see.
because it's private, it's not something where it's like I might get some new follows. Like, no, let's not do that. But
It doesn't.
let's see if I can get rid of. I got some cousins that I want to go away and they won't. So it's like, let me like go ahead and post something that's gonna really make the family mad. But
Just
I
get them to
guess
unfollow real
maybe
quick.
they don't really use it because they're still following, so they probably don't look. But they're sure as hell on that Facebook.
Well, all right. That's it. It's the family. It's the auntie and uncle. They're on
Yeah,
Facebook. They want to see pictures of the kids. I forget those sometimes, and I'll post something on my Instagram, and like my mother-in-law follows me on Facebook, and I'll forget that my stories are linked up, and it'll be some like fairly
yeah,
raunchy music, or I'll be very like I tried on my BJJ Mama page walk a fine line of like politics. I don't really post my political opinion, but I will definitely voice my opinion on like being kind to other people and like fairness and
yeah,
equality stuff, right? So sometimes I'll post some all sorts of things, and I just forget. And I'm like, oh, sorry.
I forget about.
I mean, I'm not sorry, but you know what I mean. You didn't wake up this morning on Facebook and want to see rainbows and the F word and somebody twerking.
You don't know what I'm into in the morning. All right. Like there's sometimes I wake up and the first thing I say to myself is I'm choosing violence.
Right.
I always forget that my stories are connected to my Instagram and Facebook are connected that way for my personal. So when I post things to the stories and then I, if I go to Facebook like a week later, I'll see like, oh, so-and-so liked your story. And I'm like, I ain't posting a story. Like, and I'll see the story. I'm like, oh shit. Like you weren't supposed to see that. And my sister,
sometimes I'll delete specific stories from the Facebook chain. Like I'll go back and be like, oh, that was not meant for Facebook.
So, and that's the thing, since I always forget, like by the time I even get to it, it's like, well, it's out there now. You guys know. Nothing I can do about it now. You guys know what I like. I like wrist locks. They're like, what the fuck is a wrist lock? Like, just come to the family reunion.
Oh my gosh, speaking of wrist locks, I'll make it so quick just because it was a super cool event. The Fight to Win. Did you see any of the like highlights or any of this talk about it?
I haven't seen anything yet. I've seen like one post, but I haven't really gone through anything yet.
Well, I have to shout out to my girl, Alex. Oh man, she won. It was a really cool event. I'm going to call out the Atlanta community. They need to show up a little bit more. There was a good amount of people there, but man, I wanted it like when the events, I think he does Chicago, some of the other events, they're massive. So we had a good turnout and the matches were really good. Alex was awesome. Megan Batter, she's purple belt. I don't know if you follow her. She won her match and she was really good. There was some really good jiu-jitsu. Lots of ankle locks, toe holds.
So I saw some video. I think there was a question of whether it was a tap or not. I think I can't.
That might have been an earlier one that we didn't get there for. Most of them were judge's decision or tap. There weren't a whole lot of like unknown.
I could be mixing it up with IBJJF as well because I did like see. I think the Europeans are going on right now. Yes. I did see a couple posts there. So
Europeans, I'm living vicariously through Julia. She sends me all the videos. She like did her match and then she sent us a video from like in front of the Eiffel Tower to say hi to each individual person in my family. I'm like, you are so cool. Just traveling the world doing all this jiu-jitsu. She sends me all the videos and her food.
I too live through her. It's like when she's traveling to compete, I'm like, ooh, where's she going now? Like,
and still doing her work. I'm like, I just want to be Julia when I grow up.
I'm 45 and I don't even know what I want to be when I grow up. But if I had to pick, it's like Julia. Like
apparently the answer is what is it? I love her on her bio, like lawyer by day, ninja by night or something. Yeah. She's got like a picture of a little high heel and then a picture of like a ninja face. I'm like, you're too cool.
It works. But what was it? Dreads. I forget what I was going to say.
We were talking Fight to Win. It was good. We were talking social media. We were talking Julia. I feel like we covered so many things. I had like kind of a little note, and then we we always just start talking.
Well, that's how it goes. It's like I always have notes off to the side.
Well, what about you? I didn't even ask. Oh my God, look at all your notes. So you're Off the Mat podcast, social media. Where are you at with your follows now?
18 or something, 14. I'm not sure. I don't even know which account I'm in right now. But yeah, Off the Mats. I mean, it's at this point. I don't know. I don't really even tinker with it a whole lot. I just do my regular posts. I don't hover around there much. I just go and do a post and go.
It's doing good though. I feel like when we first started, look, a little repost of me. I tagged you in this stuff just because I'm like, I don't know, who knows? Maybe if he's tired and doesn't want to share anything. I don't ever like tag people as an assumption that you must or as like any sort of demand. I feel like we're close enough now in our social media journey. I'm just throwing you like, hey, if you want to Share it, feel free. If not, whatever.
I always have kind of this thing when it comes to reposting. If you tag me in anything, I will always repost it in the stories. Now, if you personally you tag me in things, I repost to the stories without question, and then I'll save some in the queue for like a
Oh, you mean you
repost
don't
on the
even
regular
check? I
feed.
could be all kinds of stuff, and you just share
Yeah,
it, right? Oh, I'm gonna mess with
yeah.
you now. I'm gonna
Like
fuck
you
with
could
you.
just be saying you're like, man, BJJ Wiki is some trash. I'm like, yep, repost.
Repost and BJJ Mama repost. Don't even.
Because and
Oh
the thing
man.
is, that's a double whammy though, because it's like, oh, okay, well, look, he can laugh at himself too. Like, meanwhile, I didn't know what the fuck you just said.
Right. So then you're gonna be the winner here. You know I wouldn't do that, but I'm just that
Nah.
would be funny.
Well,
Now that
and
I
that's the thing.
know.
Like I trust you. So that's why I'm like, okay, you post anything and I'm going to be like, okay, yep, I'm in. Like I'll repost it. But more often
I
than not with you, I
appreciate it.
also save things in my queue for like a repost on a regular feed. Um and, like I get a lot of people that will say, I used to get people asking how much would I charge to repost, and I I don't do any charging for reposts because
And that's a
it
tough one
is
too. Once you start, where do you draw the line if you just really
yeah,
don't want to repost something? Like when you just don't want to.
exactly.
I don't want your money.
It's
I don't
like
want your content.
correct. It's like there's sometimes I've had people ask me to repost things. Yeah, sharing most of the content though, I don't have an issue with it. It's just a matter of on the main feed, I have a queue, so
Yeah.
people want things to get shared, and it's like, look, dude, I have 1,000 memes
Yeah.
ahead of
Oh my
me.
gosh. How many things do you get tagged in? I'm just curious. Like, do you open your box and it's like tagged in 5,000
I get
comments?
tagged in a lot of things, and the thing is, again, I'll because I know it's mostly for reposts, and
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and repost it. There's some things it's just like I'll wait. It's like, look, man, because keeping in mind too, my stories affect you as well because
Yeah.
if you go to the stories, you're like, oh, let's see what Dante posted, and there's 150 fucking stories to go through. You don't want to go through that, so I have to kind of make it where it's like, look, I'm going to repost this. I just have to give it some space. I need to give it a little bit of time because I don't want to flood people with 20 stories.
Well, then you're going to lose
Like,
people because they're going to be like, oh my God, I don't
yeah,
even care about this. It's too much stuff.
exactly. It's like, I might do like anywhere from 5 to 10 stories. And it's like, okay, that's good for the day. But as soon as you start getting into that weird number, like much, much higher over 10, then it's like, okay, this dude's doing too much. Unless it's something like it interconnects. Like for my horror podcast, I don't do a lot of stories, but when I do stories, it's going to be something that's relevant to a specific theme that I'm working on for that month. And it's only going to be like, like right now, I'm working on horror by decade.
Yeah.
So we just did the 20s. So I put up a post, talk about the 20s in horror. And in February, we're going into the 30s. And that's also, I've got some things already set up. But there's only a handful of posts that are going to go there and maybe a movie trailer. So those things are very well designed
Yeah.
for the
Planned.
audience. Whereas BJJ Wiki, it's like, look, it's all jujitsu, but I just have to pace it in a certain way. But there's not necessarily a plan. So, but no,
Well, I think you're doing a
like,
good job. Keep it up.
well, thank you. Honestly, like seeing what you're doing, I actually do take some cues from like I'm not making any reels myself just yet. I've done one or two,
There's a lot of
but
reels where you don't have to show your face
I have a
or
couple of them.
sing or dance.
I have a couple on So You Like Horror and
Dude, you
on
can take a meme and make it a reel.
I know.
Have
I
fun.
have a few of them.
I'm like, have fun with it.
Actually, I actually have I've made some reels myself.
Yeah.
Again, it's just but the way that I post, you never know. You just think it was like because I
But
was
also, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
um like I do things like if I put my watermark on it, it's me. But it's very rare. Um but like I do more of that stuff on So You Like Horror. So but yeah, you help me. You help me when I see your post. I'm like, okay, that's a
Oh,
reminder.
so then we should tell everyone to check out at social media strategies that work if you need more advice, tips, and tricks on how to run your social media pages for your personal or business needs. That was a good commercial.
Absolutely. And that's going to go in the show notes. And on that note, let's go ahead and wrap it up. As always, thank you for being my guest. Thank you for making time. Um, where can we find you?
BJJ Mama. That's BJJMOMMA, BJJ Mama. And if you want to check out tips on social media, I started at social media strategies that work. I know that's a long one, but I'm pretty sure all of you guys can Google how to spell that phrase. So check me out. And then is this where I get to do my little shout out for my little Flex Pro meals?
Of course. You know it's going in the notes.
I know it has to. Check out at Flex Pro Meals. They are super awesome, and I know you've even given them a try before. Meals delivered right to your door. Discount code BJJMama20. I really just try to tell people, they're meals that make your life easier. I don't have much more of a commercial for them than that, but that seems to be working, have meals show up to your door, and whether you're training jujitsu or you're just like a busy adult, it's just nice and they're good.
Yes, they are. Actually, I need to get back on it because it was a lifesaver for me with just rushing out for work. I'm like, shit, I don't have time. Oh, grab one.
Yeah, I feel like I made some serious gains when I first started using them, and now I'm in a really good groove of like intuitive eating and knowing what to do. So I have some, in the freezer, and then I just pull them down when I need them. Like, oh man, I'm going to be training a lot this week, so I'm going to put like a few in the fridge, and I'm good. At least that's how I use them. So yes, well, that's my plug-in.
You mix some good meals too together. I just pull them out and like heat them up and go. Like you're like mixing them in with other things. Like, oh,
well, that's also the social media strategist in me. I'm like, okay, let's get some fun content. Let me throw some. I mean, it is good. I do like adding the broccoli and the extra things, but too, I like to have some content.
I got you. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and make sure we put all your information in the show notes and make sure people can find you. And for everybody else, as always, thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for listening. If y'all got any questions, concerns, criticisms, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats podcast on Instagram as well. We'll give a big shout out to our guests here again, Miss BJJ Mama. BJJ Mama, don't type in Miss BJJ Mama. You won't find her.
I already spelled it out. Let me spell it out again. BJJMOMMA. Don't listen to him. I just told you the spelling.
Yes, I mess up a lot. So yes, and hey, I'm a spelling bee champ. So like, don't doubt.
Not on BJJ Mama.
True. I got eliminated on my first word in the spelling bee in third grade, and I cried on stage. So, players mess up too. But big shout out to BJJ Mama. Also big shout out to Nerd Rage Radio, Chris, Bobby, Joe, Marilyn, Phil. Love you guys. Go check them out as well. Go listen to the podcast. They're hilarious. Sometimes I show up in February. And other shout out to my other podcast, So You Like Horror. All the words separated by underscores. Go find me on Instagram. Go listen to the podcast. Just be my friend. Listen to my podcast. I love you guys. You guys keep listening to this show. And we're going to keep making it. Thank you, everyone, and bye.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.